The police raided my house because I changed my Wi-Fi password. Sounds ridiculous, right? But that's exactly what happened last Tuesday morning. My name's Paul King, a systems engineer who just wanted a stable internet connection to finish his remote work. Somehow that simple act turned into a neighborhood scandal when our HOA president, Ella Thomas, decided my router update was a cyber attack on community infrastructure. She marched up my porch, waving her HOA binder like a badge, shouting that I'd shut down the neighborhood's security grid. Before I could even explain, she whipped out her phone, dialed 911 and screamed that I was interfering with federal communications. I laughed until the flashing red and blue lights started reflecting off my living room window. What those officers discovered inside my house that day, nobody in Lakeside Grove could have imagined. Before we dive into the madness, comment below where you're watching from and what time it is. And don't forget to subscribe for more unbelievable HOA revenge stories like this one. When I first moved to Lakeside Grove, I thought I'd found peace. The homes were neat, the lawns always manicured, and the sunsets over the artificial lake painted the sky in orange and gold. After years of dealing with noisy city apartments, this quiet neighborhood seemed like paradise. I bought the small brick house at the corner lot, set up my home office, and looked forward to quiet mornings with coffee and strong Wi-Fi. But if I'd known the HOA president lived 2 doors down, I might have reconsidered. Her name was Ella Thomas, a woman in her mid-50s who ran the HOA like it was her private kingdom. The kind of person who would measure your grass with a ruler, photograph your trash cans if they weren't facing the right direction, and send warning letters for leaving a garden hose uncoiled. Most neighbors feared her. The rest pretended to like her just to avoid fines. Me, I figured if I kept to myself, there'd be no trouble. I was wrong. At first it was small things. Ella would stroll by clipboard in hand, pretending to inspect mailboxes. She'd glance toward my porch, my garage door, my recycling bins, always finding something to mutter about. Once she complained that my mailbox flag wasn't HOA compliant, red. Another time, she sent me a notice for having unapproved solar panels. I wrote back politely that they were in fact state-subsidized and legal under federal clean energy law. She didn't respond, but I knew she hated losing that one. Still, I stayed civil. I greeted her every now and then, gave a nod when she passed by. I thought maybe she'd get bored of me. Then one morning my Wi-Fi started dropping constantly. My connection was fine one moment and gone the next. At first, I blamed my internet provider, but after running diagnostics, I noticed something strange. An unfamiliar device kept reconnecting to my router. It was labeled Lakeside HOA Network. At first, I thought it might be a mistake, maybe a neighbor's signal overlapping. But when I checked my router logs, I saw active data transfers, hundreds of megabytes every day running through my personal network. Someone was using my internet without permission. I changed my password. Simple fix, I thought. Then I renamed my Wi-Fi to something funny. No more free Wi-Fi. A little joke to whoever was freeloading. I even chuckled about it as I made coffee. By noon, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, there she was, Ella Thomas, clutching her binder so tight her knuckles turned white. Her face was red not from the sun but from fury. "Mr. King," she snapped, "what have you done to the community network?" I blinked. "The what?" She jabbed her finger toward my house. "The cameras. The HOA cameras stopped working this morning. We lost access to our neighborhood feed right after you tampered with your router." I sat down my mug, genuinely confused. "Wait, what do you mean?" "Our cameras, our HOA security system," she said as if it were obvious. "It runs on a shared network. Every home in Lakeside Grove contributes bandwidth. It's part of our safety program." I raised an eyebrow. I never agreed to that. "It's in the bylaws," she barked, flipping through her binder. "Section 14 billions, cooperative infrastructure maintenance. Everyone participates." I crossed my arms. "Ella, that clause talks about maintaining the irrigation system, not Wi-Fi," she glared. "You're interfering with community property. You'll reconnect the HOA network immediately or what?" I asked, unable to hide a smirk. Her nostrils flared. Or, I'll call the police and report a digital interference violation. I almost laughed out loud. You're going to call 911 because I changed my Wi-Fi password. Yes, she hissed. This is cyber tampering. You're endangering the neighborhood security. At that point, a few neighbors started poking their heads out of their doors. You could see curtains shifting, phones recording. Everyone knew Ella loved a good public spectacle. Ella, I said calmly, my internet is private property. You or anyone else haven't no right to connect to it. That's not how our community works, she shot back. If you have nothing to hide, why change it? Her words hung heavy for a second. If you have nothing to hide. I sighed, leaned against the doorframe and said, fine, go ahead. Call the police. I'd love to see how that report looks. Her lips curled into a triumphant smirk like she'd been waiting for that line. Gladly, she said, dialing. I listened as she spoke into her phone. Yes, officer. I need immediate assistance. My neighbor has disabled our community's security network and may be tampering with communication systems. Yes, he's still here. He's refusing to cooperate. I swear I thought the dispatcher must have laughed. But a few minutes later, the distant wail of sirens echoed through the neighborhood. People began gathering near their lawns. Some were whispering, others filming. Ella stood proudly at the curb, pointing toward my house like she'd just caught a fugitive. The police SUV rolled up. 2 officers stepped out, one older, serious-looking, the other younger with that, oh no, another HOA call face. Afternoon. And the older one said, we got a call about Wi-Fi. Ella rushed forward. Yes, officer. He disabled the HOA's surveillance grid. Our entire camera system went offline right after he changed his network settings. The officer looked at me clearly, fighting a smile. Sir, is that true? I gestured toward my front door. You're welcome to come in and see the dangerous weapon I used, a router. The younger cop snorted. The older one sighed. Ma'am, he said to Ella, do you have proof this man tampered with anything other than his own property? Ella flipped through her binder on, pointing to some highlighted printout. The HOA relies on shared connectivity. He cut us off from the signal. The officer frowned. Shared connectivity? Like everyone uses his Wi-Fi. She hesitated suddenly, realizing how it sounded. It's a community arrangement. I folded my arms. I never agreed to share my internet. You were stealing bandwidth. That's a lie, she snapped. We had access for months and he never complained. The younger cop raised a brow. So, you did have access to his network, Ella stuttered. It's for safety. The HOA cameras are monitored through a central router system. His just happens to be the strongest connection point. Both officers exchanged a long look. Then the older one turned to me. Mind if we check your router, sir? Not at all, I said, opening the door. Come take a look. They stepped inside as Ella hovered outside, still ranting. I led the officers to my office where the routers sat blinking innocently beside my desk. The older cop bent over it, squinting at the connected devices list. His eyebrows shot up. Well, I'll be damned. What is it? I asked. He pointed to the screen. You've got an active connection here from a network labeled Lakeside HOA main cam server. It's still trying to connect remotely. You aware of that? I shook my head. Nope, that's exactly what I was trying to stop. The younger officer leaned in. Looks like someone's still trying to access your network from the HOA clubhouse. They both straightened up. The mood shifted instantly. Outside, Ella was pacing the driveway, arms flailing as she lectured a group of curious neighbors. The older officer asked me quietly, Sir, would you be willing to come with us to verify something at the HOA office? Gladly, I said. I had no idea that by the end of the day I'd uncover something that would make everyone in Lakeside Grove question everything they thought they knew about Ella Thomas, and about how far an HOA president would go to keep control. The moment we stepped outside, Ella was already mid-spetch, waving her binder like a royal decree. Officers, don't let him delete anything. He's probably wiping evidence right now. The older cop whose badge read Sergeant Reeves sighed audibly. Ma'am, please stand back. We're just taking a look at the network setup. Ella wasn't having it. You don't understand, she snapped. This man's been sabotaging our community's infrastructure. Without our surveillance cameras, anyone could break in, commit crimes. This neighborhood could descend into chaos. I couldn't help but mutter. Yeah, the chaos of people minding their own business. Her head whipped toward me like an owl. Excuse me, the younger officer, Patrolman Lewis, smirked. Sir, maybe don't poke the bear. I'm not poking, I said, shrugging, just pointing out that nobody signed up to have their internet hijacked. A few neighbors were standing on the sidewalk now. Janet, who always wore pink sweatpants and filmed everything for her neighborhood watch vlog. Mark, the retired teacher who'd been fined last year for planting tomatoes without HOA approval, and a couple of others pretending to water their lawns just to get a closer look. The community drama had officially gone public. Officers, Ella said, straightening her pearl necklace, our HOA agreement clearly states that all homeowners must contribute to shared services, security, landscaping, and DES, network connectivity. It's in section. Sergeant Reeves raised a hand. We've heard enough about section anything. What I want to know is, did you or anyone in your HOA have access to Mr. King's personal router before today? Ella hesitated for half a second too long. Access is a strong word, she said. Let's call it cooperative bandwidth. Cooperative bandwidth, I repeated, trying not to laugh. That's your new legal term for stealing Wi-Fi, the neighbor snickered. Even the young officer bit back a grin. Reeves' expression hardened. Ma'am, you can't use another resident's private internet connection for HOA operations without written consent. That's a privacy violation. Privacy violation? She scoffed. He's part of the community. We all share resources here. I crossed my arms. Not my data. We don't. Ella's face went from red to crimson. Mr. King, she said through clenched teeth, you are undermining our neighborhood safety initiative. Without that connection, our cameras cannot function. Then maybe you should pay for your own network. I said, you're the HOA. You collect fees every month. That hit a nerve. Her lips pressed into a thin line. You think you can defy this community structure and get away with it? I'm the elected president of Lakeside Grove. Reeves took a step forward. You're not above the law, Mrs. Thomas. That shut her up for exactly 5 seconds. Then, like clockwork, she switched tactics. Officers, she said sweetly, if you're so concerned about privacy, maybe you should check his devices. Who knows what kind of illegal activity he's hiding? I raised an eyebrow. Seriously? You're accusing me of being some sort of hacker now? I'm saying, she replied with a smirk, that his network has been acting suspiciously, and the HOA can't monitor it anymore, because it's none of your business, I snapped. The young cop stepped between us. All right, both of you, enough. Reeves turned to me. Mr. King, would you mind if we take a look inside your computer to verify that you are not connected to any external servers just so we can close this case properly? Go ahead, I said. I've got nothing to hide. Inside, they followed me to my home office again. The router lights blinked calmly as if mocking the chaos outside. I opened my laptop and showed them my network panel. Reeves leaned in. There it is again, he said. Lakeside HOA main cam server trying to reconnect. He clicked into the log files, streams of data, camera feed attempts, error codes, then a line that made everyone in the room go silent. Connection attempt from HOA office terminal. 2 unauthorized access denied. Lewis whistled. Someone's still trying to tap in from the clubhouse. I folded my arms. Guess my new password's giving them trouble. Reeves turned serious. Mr. King, when did you first notice this? 2 days ago, I said. I thought it was some random hacker until I saw the network name. He nodded slowly. We're going to need to check that clubhouse. Outside, Ella was pacing like a caged tiger, ranting to anyone who would listen. He's turning the officers against me. This is a witch hunt. When we stepped out, she stopped mid-sentence. Well, she demanded, did you find proof he's guilty? Reeves looked straight at her. Actually, Mrs. Thomas, we found evidence that your HOA office is still attempting to access Mr. King's network without authorization. We'll need to inspect your sys. Thames. Her jaw dropped. You can't just march into private HOA property, private property or not, Reeves said firmly. If there's evidence of an illegal network tap, we have probable cause. The neighbors erupted in whispers. Someone muttered, "Told you she was spying on us." Ella's face twisted. "I will not allow this violation of HOA sovereignty." Lewis blinked. "Did you just say HOA sovereignty?" She realized how ridiculous that sounded, but doubled down. "Yes. The clubhouse is under HOA jurisdiction, and you need a board-approved warrant to enter." Reeves took out his radio, spoke a few words into it, then said calmly, "We'll let a warrant sort that out." Within an hour, 2 more patrol cars arrived. Neighbors had gathered like it was a live reality show. Some brought folding chairs. Janet was streaming it live on her vlog with the caption, "HOA President Busted." As the officers approached the clubhouse, Ella stood in the doorway, blocking the entrance. "You are trespassing on community property." Reeves held up a paper. "Search warrant. County approved. Step aside." The defiance melted from her face. She backed away slowly, muttering, "This is harassment." Inside, the clubhouse was spotless at first glance. Freshly waxed floors, motivational posters about community unity, and a table lined with HOA documents. But behind a locked door labeled Maintenance Room, authorized personnel only, they found it. Rows of monitors, servers humming quietly, Ethernet cables running like spiderweb. And on those monitors, live feeds, dozens of them, front yards, driveways, patios, even one that clearly showed someone's kitchen interior. Lewis swore under his breath. "Holy, this is insane, Reeve." As face went cold. "Mrs. Thomas, what exactly are we looking at here?" Ella's voice shook slightly. It's our safety system. We monitor for suspicious activity inside people's homes," he barked. She stammered. "Only if their cameras were voluntarily connected to the network." I stepped closer to one of the screens. My heart sank. The feed showed my own backyard, zoomed in on my patio table, my laptop visible from the reflection of the glass door. "Voluntary, huh?" I said quietly. Ella's lip trembled. "It's a misunderstanding." Reeves cut her off. "No, it's invasion of privacy, unauthorized surveillance, and likely wiretapping. You've been routing footage through Mr. King's network to mask your own signal." Her composure cracked. "I did it for the good of the neighborhood, ma'am." "You did it for control," I said. For the first time since I'd met her, Ella didn't have a comeback. Her eyes darted around the room, calculating, desperate. Reeves called it in. Within minutes, officers started seizing hard drives, tagging equipment for evidence. One unplugged a server labeled HOA Cam Master, while another photographed every monitor. Outside news vans had already started showing up. Apparently, Janet's live stream had gone viral. People wanted to see the Wi-Fi war at Lakeside Grove. As Ella was led outside, neighbors confronted her. "Were you spying on us?" one woman demanded. "You recorded our kids playing." Another yelled, "Did you watch us in our pool?" Ella tried to respond, but her voice drowned in the noise. She turned to me as officers guided her toward the squad car. "You think you've won, Paul? You embarrass this community. They'll turn on you next." I met her eyes. "At least Hell, do it with their own internet connection." The door shut behind her with a heavy thud. The crowd clapped hesitant at first, then growing louder. Some laughed nervously, others looked shaken. The young officer came up beside me, shaking his head. "I've seen some HOA drama before, but this is next level." Reeves handed me his card. "We'll need your testimony for the report." You did the right thing. As the police vehicles pulled away, the flashing lights reflected across the lake, shimmering in the water like a distorted mirror. I stood there on the curb, neighbors still murmuring, and couldn't help but think this wasn't just about Wi-Fi. It was about control, privacy, and what happens when someone in power forgets where the line is. The next morning, Lakeside Grove looked nothing like the peaceful suburb I'd moved into. Police tape surrounded the HOA clubhouse. News vans lined the street, and every neighbor within walking distance was either filming, gossiping, or pretending to walk their dog just to get a closer look. When I stepped outside to grab my mail, I spotted Sergeant Reeves standing by his cruiser, talking to a man in a dark jacket with the county cybercrime task force logo. Reeves waved me over. "Morning, Mr. King. Sorry about the chaos," he said. "You might want to know what we found in that office goes way deeper than we thought." I crossed my arms. "How deep are we talking?" The cybercrime officer introduced himself as Agent Rowe. "Those servers weren't just recording live footage," he said. "They were streaming backups to a private cloud account registered under the HOA's name, but managed exclusively by one admin. I didn't need to ask who that was." "Ella Thomas," I said flatly. Rowe nodded. "She routed everything through your Wi-Fi so her personal IP wouldn't show up on the logs. Smart trick if it weren't completely illegal." Reeves rubbed the bridge of his nose. "She even had the cameras in infrared mode. That means she could see into people's windows at night." I felt a chill crawl up my spine. The idea that someone had been spying through my own internet connection through my router made me sick. "What's going to happen to her?" I asked. Reeves sighed. "She's being questioned downtown. We're filing charges for unauthorized surveillance, data theft, and electronic intrusion, but it'll take time to get everything processed." As he spoke, a familiar shriek broke through the morning air. "This is outrageous. I'm the victim here." We turned to see Ella flanked by two lawyers in suits that looked more expensive than her entire HOA budget. Her hair was perfectly set, her pearl earrings glinting in the sunlight, but her face was pale and tight with fury. One of the lawyers called out, "My client will not be answering any further questions without due process." Reeves folded his arms. "Then she can explain to a judge why her community system had access to private living rooms." Ella pointed at me. "This man's responsible for everything. He tampered with the network. He framed me." I raised an eyebrow. "You really want to double down on that, Ella, because the server logs say otherwise." Rowe stepped forward. "Ma'am, your name and admin credentials were tied to all camera activity. The cloud account even used your personal recovery email." For a moment, Ella's mask cracked. I was only trying to protect everyone," she stammered. "Crime rates are rising. Someone had to take initiative." Reeves's voice was calm, almost pitying. "You crossed a line, Mrs. Thomas. Protection doesn't mean surveillance. You spied on your neighbors, your friends, and even their kids." Her voice grew sharp again. "Those people don't appreciate the work I've done. Without me, this neighborhood would be chaos," I muttered. "You're not wrong. It's chaos now." That earned me a death glare, but honestly, I didn't care. The officers led her away toward the waiting cruiser as reporters swarmed. Microphones popped up like weeds. "Mrs. Thomas, is it true you spied on residents through their home cameras? Did you use Mr. King's Wi-Fi to cover your tracks? Was this a community project or personal obsession?" Ella turned her face away, chin lifted like a fallen monarch, refusing to bow. I went back inside, but the sound of camera shutters followed me for hours. That afternoon, I got a call from Officer Lewis, the younger cop from the day before. "Hey, just wanted to let you know we're getting warrants to search her home, too." Apparently, she had backup drives there. "You think she's got more recordings?" "Almost definitely. People like that never delete their trophies." By evening, Lakeside Grove's Facebook page was a war zone. Half the neighborhood was in shock. The other half was trying to distance themselves from her entirely. "I can't believe she spied on us." I knew those HOA cameras were creepy. Did anyone else get fined for not contributing bandwidth? Paul was right all along. Someone even made a meme. Ella's angry face photoshopped onto a security camera with the caption, "Smile, you're in HOA vision." I laughed harder than I should have, but under the humor was something darker, an unease that made my stomach twist. How long had she been watching me? How much had she seen? 2 days later, Reeves and Rowe came back to finish the formal statement. I made them coffee while they set up their recording devices. Paul Rowe began. We reviewed her backups. She's been recording since at least last March. That's nearly 8 months of footage, mostly outdoors, but some interior cameras too. My grip on the mug tightened. Interior? You mean inside houses mostly where people installed smart doorbells or baby monitors that accidentally synced to her network? She exploited that. Good Lord, Reeves added. She also used keyword tagging names, license plates, even timestamps for when people came and went. It's obsessive. I stared at them stunned. And she did all this through my internet. Rowe nodded grimly. Without your connection, it would have been traceable. She used your router as a mask. You were basically her proxy. I sat back, overwhelmed by the absurdity of it all. I bought a house for peace and quiet, and ended up starring in the neighborhood's biggest privacy scandal. That night, someone knocked gently on my door. It was Janet, the vlogger neighbor, holding a box of cookies. Hey, Paul, just wanted to say thank you. Thank me. She nodded. You stopped her. I didn't realize how much she'd been watching until the cops told us. She even had footage of my backyard hot tub. My husband is still mortified. I grimaced. That's horrifying. Janet sighed. She always acted like she cared about safety. Turns out she just liked control. I couldn't disagree. After she left, I walked out onto my porch. The night air was quiet again. Eerily quiet. For the first time since I'd moved in, there were no strange Wi-Fi signals showing up on my phone. Just my own network. HOA spy-free zone. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that Ella had left more than cameras behind. The following week, a county inspector arrived to take formal statements from all residents. He explained that Ella's setup was part of a larger trend. Some HOAs across the country had started installing community surveillance grids without consent, piggybacking off homeowners' networks to avoid legal restrictions. He looked exhausted. We've seen this before, but never this bad. Yours might set a new precedent. Great, I thought. My house was about to become Exhibit A in some cyber privacy case. By Friday, the HOA held an emergency meeting without Ella, of course. The vice president, Tom Garcia, stood nervously at the front of the clubhouse, facing a sea of angry homeowners. On behalf of the board, we sincerely apologize, he said. We were unaware of Mrs. Thomas's unauthorized surveillance practices. Someone shouted, You signed the budget for it, Tom winced. She told us it was for landscaping cameras. Landscaping my foot, another voice yelled. She had one pointing at my bedroom window. The crowd roared. It was chaos. Tom finally raised his hands. Please, we're dissolving the old board, effective immediately, and we're asking Mr. King to serve as temporary technology advisor to help rebuild a legal security system. The room fell silent. I blinked. Wait me, Tom nodded. You exposed this mess. We trust you. For a second, I wanted to say no. I'd had enough HOA drama for a lifetime. But looking around the room at the neighbors who'd been spied on, humiliated, and manipulated, I realized this place needed someone rational, someone who could stop another Ella before she appeared. I sighed. All right, I'll help, but the first rule, no shared networks ever again. The room broke into laughter and applause. When I left the meeting, the air felt lighter. For the first time, people waved at me, not out of curiosity, but gratitude. Even Mark the tomato guy handed me a small basket of homegrown produce. As I walked home under the glow of the streetlights, I glanced up at the HOA office windows. The blinds were closed, the servers gone, and the cameras dark. No red lights, no blinking lenses, no one watching. For once, Lakeside Grove actually felt like a community again. But deep down, I couldn't forget the image burned into my mind. Those monitors in Ella's office glowing with the stolen privacy of dozens of homes. And I knew, even though the cameras were gone, the memory of being watched would linger for a long, long time. Still, I smiled because the truth once uncovered doesn't go back into hiding. It had been a week since the HOA's emergency meeting, and things in Lakeside Grove were just beginning to calm down. The clubhouse was locked down by county order, the cameras removed, and Ella's face had been on the local news for 3 nights straight. Every headline was some variation of HOA president accused of illegal surveillance, Suburban spy ring exposed, neighborhood watch, or neighborhood invasion. I tried to stay out of it. I wasn't looking for fame or attention, but no matter how quiet I kept, the story followed me. At the grocery store, people whispered. At the coffee shop, strangers thanked me for standing up to corruption. Someone even slipped a knot under my door that said, "You're a hero, Paul. Thank you for exposing her." A hero. That word didn't sit right with me. I hadn't been brave. If I just changed my Wi-Fi password. Still, the truth was spreading faster than I could process. That morning, I got a call from Agent Rowe, the cybercrime investigator. His tone was serious. "Paul, we need you to come down to the county offices. There's something you need to see." When I arrived, Rowe had a USB drive plugged into a monitor. He gestured for me to sit. We went through the final batch of recovered data from Ella's system. There's something unusual. The screen came to life, a grid of folders labeled by address. Each one was a homeowner in Lakeside Grove. Inside every folder, dates, timestamps, video clips. Rowe opened one marked King Residence. I felt my throat tighten. The footage began. My backyard, the patio, the kitchen window recorded in clear 1080p resolution. I saw myself sitting at my table, typing on my laptop, unaware that someone was watching. Then another clip, me stepping out of the shower towel around my waist through the faint reflection of the bathroom window. I froze. Jesus Christ. Rowe's jaw clenched. "We're destroying all footage immediately, but I wanted you to understand just how far she went." "Why would she keep all this?" I whispered. She wasn't just watching, she was building DOS patterns. When people left home, when deliveries arrived, even notes about who was non-compliant with HOA rules, I stared at the monitor in disbelief. She turned this neighborhood into a surveillance state. Rowe nodded. "We found similar files for every house. Some residents had interior smart devices, synced, baby monitors, RT speakers, even TVs. She piggybacked on every signal she could reach." The realization made my stomach turn. For months, she had been living out her control fantasy, unseen, recording everyone under the guise of safety. And the worst part, nobody had stopped her. When I drove home, I saw Tom Garcia, the HOA vice president, standing by my mailbox. He looked exhausted, guilt, weighing down every word he said. "Paul, I had no idea," he said softly. "She told us the network was just for license plates and package theft. I swear none of us knew she was spying inside homes." I studied him for a moment. "Tom, you signed the invoices for those cameras." "I did," he admitted, his voice cracking. "But she handled the tech side, said everything was cloud secured through the county. She even faked emails from law enforcement to make it seem official." I shook my head. "You trusted her too much." He nodded. "Everyone did. She played the perfect neighbor, polite, organized, motherly. But the second someone questioned her authority, she'd bury them in citations." I sighed. Control disguised as community service. Tom looked down. "She called it Project Harmony. That's what the system was named on the invoices. She said it was about keeping the neighborhood safe and connected. Turns out it was just about keeping everyone under her thumb." The irony wasn't lost on me. Harmony. That afternoon, I met a few neighbors who'd gathered near the park, the first casual meetup since the scandal. The mood was strange, half relieved, half ashamed. Janet, the vlogger, was there too, her phone for once not recording. "They told us she had camera feeds from inside my living room," she said quietly. "Every time I called her to complain about my HOA fees, she'd already know what I was going to say. Now I understand how." Mark the tomato guy nodded grimly. "She fined me for not trimming my hedges enough." The next day, I got an email from the HOA with pictures of my yard taken from the same angle as the camera the cops found. She must have been watching the whole time. A silence fell. Everyone was processing their own humiliation. Then Janet asked Paul, "Why'd you decide to fight back?" Most people would have just reset the router and ignored it. I thought about it. Honestly, I was tired of being pushed around. People like Ella thrive because we stay quiet. I wasn't trying to start a war, but once I saw the truth, I couldn't unsee it. They nodded, the weight of shared violation hanging between us. That night, I sat at my desk staring at my own reflection in the dark monitor. The house was silent, too silent. I opened my Wi-Fi settings again, double-checking every connected device. Only one appeared mine, but paranoia is a stubborn thing. I unplugged my smart speaker, disconnected my doorbell cam, taped over my webcam. Once trust is broken, it doesn't grow back easily. 2 days later, a formal letter arrived from the county court. I unfolded it carefully. Notice of subpoena. Paul King is hereby requested to testify in the case of the state versus Ella Thomas regarding evidence of unauthorized surveillance and data misuse. I sighed. It was official now. This wasn't just HOA drama anymore. It was criminal. The following week, I entered the courthouse, the same courthouse where Ella had spent years bragging about her community leadership awards. She sat at the defense table, wearing a gray suit instead of her usual pink blazer. Her expression calm but hollow. Her lawyers argued that she had good intentions, that it was community oversight gone wrong. They said she'd only wanted to keep residents safe and reduce crime. But when the prosecutor presented evidence, video clips, connection logs, emails, where she bragged to a friend that these fools don't even know they're on camera, the courtroom gasped. Then it was my turn to testify. I took the stand, told them everything from the day my Wi-Fi glitched to the moment the police uncovered her control room. I tried to stay composed, but when the prosecutor asked how it felt to discover that my private life had been broadcast across a neighborhood server, I couldn't hide the anger in my voice. "It felt like being robbed," I said quietly. "Not of money, but of trust. Every private moment in my home became entertainment for someone who thought she was above the law." Ella wouldn't meet my eyes. When the verdict came, the courtroom was dead silent. Guilty. She was sentenced to 18 months of probation, community service, and a lifetime ban from serving on any HOA board. It wasn't prison time, but it was something. And more importantly, it was public. The judge's final words echoed in my mind. No one, regardless of title or authority, has the right to invade another person's home under the guise of protection. As I walked out of the courthouse, a cluster of reporters rushed toward me. "Mr. King, how does it feel to win? Do you think justice was served? What message would you give to other HOAs?" I paused at the top of the courthouse, steps the cool breeze hitting my face. "I didn't win," I said. "Privacy did. That night, the neighbor, Ood, held an informal gathering by the lake. People brought food, drinks, and laughter for the first time in months. Someone even hung a sign near the clubhouse. "Welcome to Lakeside Grove now, 100% spy-free." As the sun dipped below the horizon, I stood by the water, watching the reflection of the houses ripple across the surface. It felt different now. Honest, human, imperfect, but free. And for the first time, I realized something important. Truth doesn't just expose corruption, it heals what fear tried to silence. I didn't set out to become the neighborhood's defender. I just wanted decent internet. But in the end, I got something far better. Peace, real peace. The dust from the trial hadn't even settled when my phone started buzzing nonstop. News outlets, tech blogs, even a few law podcasts wanted interviews. Apparently, the Wi-Fi case had gone viral nationwide. One headline read, "Man exposes HOA spy network after changing Wi-Fi password." Privacy advocates applaud. I couldn't open social media without seeing my face in a thumbnail somewhere. It was surreal. A week ago, I was just a quiet systems engineer. Now people were calling me the guy who fought back. I didn't feel like a hero, though. Heroes sleep soundly. I hadn't slept more than 3 hours in a row since the night the police found those servers. Still, I had to move on. That morning, I went down to the county office to sign a few closing documents for the investigation. Agent Rowe met me in the lobby, his expression softer this time. "Hey, King. Just wanted to tell you we wrapped the digital evidence audit. It's officially sealed now." "Good," I said. "So that's it, it's all over," he nodded. "For you? Yeah. For Ella? Not quite." The HOA is being hit with a class action lawsuit from multiple residents. Civil damages, emotional distress, violation of privacy laws. She'll be paying for this for a long time. I let out a slow breath. Can't say she didn't earn it. Rowe chuckled. "You'd be surprised how many people came forward after your story. Other HOAs across the state are quietly reviewing their surveillance policies. Looks like you started something bigger than you think," I smirked. "All because of a Wi-Fi password." When I got home, I found a thick envelope sitting on my doorstep. The HOA seal was printed across the front, though the handwriting wasn't Ella's. Inside was a letter from Tom Garcia, now acting HOA president. "Dear Mr. King, on behalf of the Lakeside Grove Homeowners Association, I want to express our gratitude for your patience, integrity, and courage during this ordeal. The board has voted unanimously to offer you the role of permanent technology advisor with full control over any future community systems. We also approve a motion to reimburse you for damages caused by unauthorized network usage. Please consider attending next week's HOA meeting. We'd like to rebuild our neighborhood on transparency, starting with you. Sincerely, Tom Garcia." I stared at the letter for a long time, becoming part of the HOA, the very organization that nearly destroyed my peace. It felt like volunteering to babysit a nest of rattlesnakes, but then again, maybe that was exactly why I needed to do it. A week later, I showed up to the HOA meeting. Gone were the banners, the fake community pride posters, the smugness. The room was quieter, now humbler. Tom stood at the front with a laptop, visibly nervo. "Us. All right, everyone," he said. "Before we start, I'd like to acknowledge Mr. King for, well, everything." Applause broke out. Actual applause. I raised a hand awkwardly. "Thanks, but let's skip the hero stuff and talk about solutions." We spent the next hour dismantling Ella's old policies. Everything from her ridiculous lawn fines to the mandatory surveillance clause hidden in the bylaws. The more we uncovered, the worse it got. She had embedded language, giving herself executive discretion over neighborhood safety protocols, meaning she legally wrote herself permission to spy. Tom rubbed his temples. "Unbelievable. How did we sign this?" "You didn't read it," I said plainly. "She built a system nobody questioned. That's how control works quietly. We voted unanimously to rewrite the bylaws this time with actual transparency. No one could ever install technology without majority approval again." After the meeting, as everyone packed up, Tom pulled me aside. "Paul, the board meant what they said. We want you to oversee all digital infrastructure, cameras, websites, everything. We trust you." "Careful," I said with a half smile. "That's exactly what got you into trouble with the last person." He laughed, but his tone was sincere. "This time's different. You earned it." I nodded. "All right, I'll do it, but on one condition. Name it." We renamed the network. Tom raised a brow to what I smiled. HOA Spy-Free Zone. He laughed so hard he nearly dropped his coffee. Done. The following month was quiet, beautifully, peacefully quiet. The HOA servers were rebuilt with strict security measures. Every homeowner got a private password-protected account to view only the footage from public IC areas, entrances, parking lots, community pool. No more secret login-ins, no hidden feeds. For the first time in years, people started attending meetings voluntarily. We even had kids playing by the lake again, something I hadn't seen since moving here. It was strange watching the same neighbors who once glared at me, now wave with genuine smiles. But one afternoon, as I was cleaning out my garage, I saw a black sedan pull up near the old clubhouse. A woman stepped out, short brown hair, neat blazer sunglasses. For a second, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. Ella Thomas. I froze. She looked thinner, worn down her posture, no longer proud. She placed a small cardboard box on the clubhouse steps and stood there for a long moment, staring at it. Then she turned, saw me watching, and hesitated. For a brief second, our eyes met. There was no hatred there anymore, just exhaustion. She gave a faint, sad nod. Then she got back in her car and drove away. Curiosity got the better of me. I walked over and opened the box. Inside were keys, a faded HOA badge, and a note to the new board. Consider this my final act of compliance. I thought I was protecting people. Turns out I was just protecting my own power. Ella, I stood there in silence. For all her arrogance and cruelty, that single line was the first honest thing I'd ever seen her write. That evening I brought the note to Tom. He read it twice, then handed it back. Closure, he said softly. Maybe, I replied, or maybe guilt. Either way, Ella never came back. She sold her house within a month and disappeared from the county records. Rumor had it she moved to Arizona, joined a gated community that didn't have an HOA. The irony was delicious. Life returned to normal, or as normal as it could get after something like that. I spent my days working from home, maintaining the HOA's new network and enjoying the rare quiet that now filled the neighborhood. Sometimes at night, I'd walk past the clubhouse just to make sure no red lights were blinking. The servers hummed gently, safe, legal, secure. I'd catch my reflection in the glass doors, the faint glow of the router lights behind me, and think about how something so small a Wi-Fi password had unraveled an entire web of deceit. And every time the same thought crossed my mind, power doesn't always wear a badge or a title. Sometimes it hides in plain sight in something as ordinary as a neighborhood meeting or a shared network. But as long as there's someone willing to question it, even just one person, the truth will always find a signal. A few weeks later, during the next HOA gathering, I announced one final update. Folks, we've implemented encrypted channels for all our devices, and for fun, I added, smiling, I renamed the guest Wi-Fi again. Everyone leaned forward. It's now called Trust But Verify. The whole room burst out laughing. Tom raised his coffee mug. To Paul King, the man who turned chaos into community, I lifted my cup in return. To a neighborhood that finally learned what privacy means. We clinked kid mugs as laughter filled the hall. Outside, the sun dipped low over Lakeside Grove light, reflecting off calm water. For the first time, I felt at peace without paranoia, the kind that no camera could ever capture. I thought everything was over after Ella disappeared. The neighborhood was healing, the new board was doing great, and I was finally catching up on my sleep. But then one chilly Friday morning, as I was pouring coffee, a letter slid under my front door. Thick paper, official seal. Notice of summons. Paul King is requested to appear before the County Court of Appeals. My stomach dropped. Oh no, I muttered. It turned out Ella Thomas wasn't done yet. She was appealing her sentence. The letter said she had hired a new lawyer, a high-profile attorney known for reputation rehabilitation cases. The hearing would revisit whether her punishment was too harsh and whether certain residents, meaning me, had defamed her publicly. I set the mug down, coffee splashing across the counter. Unbelievable, I said to no one. She still thinks she's the victim. The following week, I found myself back in the same courthouse, sitting across from the woman who had made my life a living nightmare. Ella looked different this time. Her sharp confidence was gone, replaced by something colder, strategic. Her lawyer, Gregory Hunt, was a tall man with slick-back hair and a voice that oozed confidence. When the judge called the session to order, Hunt stood up. "Your Honor, My client acknowledges her mistakes, but the punishment rendered was disproportionate to her intent. Mrs. Thomas did not act out of malice. She acted out of a desire to protect her community. I rolled my eyes. Protect her community by spying on their bedrooms. The prosecutor leaned forward. Intent doesn't erase the fact that she committed multiple felonies, Mr. Hunt. But Hunt wasn't finished. We also intend to demonstrate that certain residents, namely Mr. Paul King, have exaggerated claims for personal gain and caused significant reputational damage to my client. My pulse quickened. Oh, he did not just say that, I whispered. The judge glanced at me. Mr. King, you'll have a chance to respond. When it was my turn, I stepped up to the witness stand. Hunt's smile was the kind lawyers use before they twist a knife. Mr. King, he began smoothly, you changed your Wi-Fi password, correct? Yes. And you were aware that doing so affected the HOA's camera network? I was aware after they accused me. Before that, I had no idea they were using my network. He nodded like a teacher humoring a student. But you admit that your actions caused the security cameras to go offline only because they were illegally connected to my personal router, I shot back. They shouldn't have been using it in the first place. A few people in the courtroom chuckled quietly. Hunt didn't like that. Mr. King, he said, you seem to enjoy public attention. Is it true you've given several interviews since the incident too? I said, both about privacy rights, not about her personally. He smirked. And yet your statements included phrases like control freak, dictator of suburbia, and HOA tyranny. Those were your words, were they not? I folded my arms. Those were quotes from her own emails. I just read them out loud. Even the judge had to hide a smile behind her hand. After several rounds of back and forth, Hunt called Ella to the stand. She walked up slowly, hands clasped, pretending to look remorseful. Your Honor, she said, voice trembling, I've made mistakes. I understand that now. But I was trying to help. I thought people would feel safer if I could monitor potential threats by invading their homes, the prosecutor asked flatly. She blinked innocently. I never intended to invade anyone's privacy. The cameras were for security, not spying. Then why did you store private footage in a personal cloud account under your name? Her eyes darted sideways, for system backup. The prosecutor clicked a remote, and a projector lit up the courtroom wall. On the screen appeared one of her emails sent to the HOA board 6 months before the scandal broke. If residents won't obey the rules, I'll make sure they do. Cameras don't lie, and neither do routers. A collective gasp filled the room. Ella's face drained of color. Hunt tried to object, but the damage was done. The prosecutor turned to the judge. Your Honor, Mrs. Thomas was not protecting her community. She was controlling it. This wasn't about safety. It was about power. Then came the moment I didn't expect. The prosecutor asked to introduce one final piece of evidence. A file found on Ella's backup drive labeled Private Notes. Inside were detailed logs of residents' routines when they left for work, what time lights went out, even comments like Paul King spends too much time at his computer suspicious. My jaw tightened as I read my name in her obsessive handwriting. The judge looked furious. Mrs. Thomas, you kept personal surveillance notes on every resident, Ella stammered. I was only documenting patterns for community safety. No, the judge snapped. You were violating your neighbors' lives. The verdict didn't take long. This time her appeal was denied. The original sentence was upheld, and the court added one more condition, a restraining order, preventing her from contacting any resident of Lakeside Grove for the next 5 years. When the judge read it aloud, Ella finally broke. Her composure cracked, tears streaking down her face. I gave everything to that neighborhood, she shouted, and this is how they repay me. I looked at her, not with anger, but with a strange kind of pity. You didn't give, I said quietly. You took. Her eyes locked onto mine, filled with something between hatred and heartbreak. For a brief second, I saw what drove her. Not just ego, but fear. the kind of fear that makes someone cling to control because they can't handle uncertainty. The bailiff led her away, and I watched as the woman who once ruled our neighborhood vanished behind the courtroom doors for the last time. Outside, the media was waiting again. This time, I didn't stop for interviews. I walked straight to my truck, breathing in the cold air, finally free of the storm that had followed me for months. But as I reached the parking lot, I heard someone call my name. It was Tom Garcia, holding a copy of the new HOA bylaws. "Paul," he said, jogging up, "we did it. The judge just approved our amended charter, full community transparency, mandatory consent for all shared systems. It's official." I smiled. "You mean the HOA can't spy on anyone ever again?" He grinned. "Not unless they want to face 10 years in prison." We both laughed, and for once it wasn't bitter. That evening, Lakeside Grove felt alive again. Porch lights glowed warm instead of ominous. Kids played by the cul-de-sac. Someone down the street was barbecuing. For the first time, there wasn't a single blinking red camera light anywhere. I sat on my porch with a glass of iced tea, scrolling through my phone. An email from the HOA popped up, an official notice. Subject: new credentials from Tom Garcia. Paul. Here are the credentials for the new HOA network system. All encrypted, all transparent. P.S. We used your idea for the password. Password truth, always on. I chuckled and leaned back in my chair, looking up at the stars. It struck me how strange life could be. A simple Wi-Fi change had revealed an entire ecosystem of corruption, paranoia, and hidden cameras. And yet out of that chaos came something unexpectedly beautiful. Community accountability and respect. Sometimes justice doesn't come with fireworks or fanfare. Sometimes it's just the quiet hum of a router running securely with no one watching who shouldn't be. I glanced at my laptop screen one last time before closing it. The connection read, HOA spy-free zone connected. And this time I knew the only thing it was connected to was peace. A few months passed after Ella's final courtroom defeat, and Lakeside Grove finally began to feel normal again, maybe even better than normal. The neighborhood that once felt tense and paranoid now carried a sense of cautious optimism. People were laughing again, kids rode their bikes without worried, parents glancing up at every corner for hidden cameras. The air felt lighter. Every Saturday morning, I'd take a slow walk around the lake with a cup of coffee, nodding to neighbors I'd barely spoken to before. Funny how a scandal can bring people together more than any HOA meeting ever could. One morning I saw Tom Garcia, the new HOA president, setting up a community cleanup day banner near the park entrance. He waved. "Paul, you're early, man." I smirked. "Habit. I used to wake up early to reset my router logs, remember?" Tom laughed. "At least now the only thing spying on you is a couple of ducks." We aired a chuckle, but then his expression softened. "You know," he said, "I've been thinking. If it weren't for you, we'd all still be living under that woman's microscope." "I didn't do it for that," I said. "I just wanted her to stop crossing the line." He nodded thoughtfully. "That's exactly why you should be part of the new board permanently. We need people who know where the line is and how to keep it visible." I smiled. "I already agreed to be your tech guy, Tom. That's enough authority for me." He grinned. "Fair, but just know this neighborhood finally trusts you." That word trust hit deeper than I expected. After the cleanup, I went back home and opened my garage workshop. My tools were scattered across the workbench next to a half-finished wooden sign I'd been carving. It read, Lakeside Grove, privacy, peace, and community. A motto we'd voted on last month. It felt right, honest, something Ella would have hated. A community that didn't need to be controlled to be united. As I brushed the sawdust away, my phone buzzed. A message from Agent Rowe, the cybercrime investigator. "Hey Paul, just wanted to let you know the case file is officially closed. All devices destroyed. You're in the clear. Congrats, man. You made privacy cool again." I laughed out loud. Made privacy cool again. There was a slogan in there somewhere. That night, as I sat on the porch with the faint hum of crickets in the distance, I couldn't help but reflect on how far we'd come. When I'd first moved here, Lakeside Grove looked like paradise. Neatly trimmed lawns, perfectly painted houses, and smiles that never quite reached people's eyes. But beneath that perfection was fear. Fear of stepping out of line. Fear of Nez. Fear of Ella. And all it took to break her empire was one man's Wi-Fi password. I took a sip of iced tea and laughed softly. Life has a sense of irony. It gives you peace only after chaos, freedom only after someone tries to take it away. A few days later, Tom asked me to help set up the new HOA tech system in the clubhouse. This time everything was open, transparent. Every resident had their own login, their own vote on digital changes. The screens that once displayed private camera feeds now showed community announcements, weather updates, and upcoming events. Kids ran around playing tag while adults shared coffee and muffins. For the first time, the HOA office didn't feel like a fortress. It felt like a community center. As I adjusted the final monitor, Janet, the neighborhood vlogger, walked over with her camera. "Hey, Paul, mind saying a few words for our new HOA YouTube channel?" I groaned. "You made a YouTube channel for the HOA." She grinned. "Relax. It's just for updates. No scandals this time. I promise." "Fine," I said, smiling. "What do you want me to say?" "Something about how the neighborhood learned from the past," she replied. I looked into the lens. Well, if there's one thing Lakeside Grove has learned, it's this: technology doesn't create trust. People do. Cameras can't protect a community, but respect can. And if anyone tries to spy on my Wi-Fi again— Janet laughed. "You'll change the password?" I winked. "You bet." The camera cut off, and the whole group burst out laughing. A week later, I got an unexpected letter in the mail. No return address, just my name typed neatly on the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a small flash drive. The note read, "How you think I'm gone for good?" I probably should be, but before you burn this, hear me out. There's footage on this drive, something I recorded before the end. It's not what you think, Ella. My heart sank. I stared at the flash drive for a long time before finally plugging it into my laptop. The video opened immediately. It was Ella sitting in her old HOA office, the walls bare, her eyes tired. "I know you hate me," she began. "Maybe I deserve it. I built something I thought would make people safe, but all it did was make them afraid. Somewhere along the line, I stopped being a neighbor and started being a warden. You showed me that." She paused, looking off camera. "If you're watching this, Paul, I just want you to know you were right. Control isn't protection. It's fear dressed as order. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just hope you keep doing what you're doing, reminding people that truth doesn't need to hide behind walls or Wi-Fi passwords." The screen went black. I sat there stunned. Maybe it was closure. Maybe it was her way of letting go. Either way, I felt no anger, just relief. Months rolled by and the neighborhood flourished. We held outdoor movie nights, charity drives, and even a Halloween fair that became a local hit. There were still occasional disagreements about paint colors, noise complaints, or whose dog left paw prints on the walkway. But it was healthy conflict, the kind that happens in normal communities. The best part, nobody called 911 over Wi-Fi again. One evening, I stood by the lake as the sunset painted the water orange and gold the same way it had the day I first moved here. Only this time, the peace felt real. Tom walked up beside me. "You know, T's strange," he said. "All of this started with something so small, a password." "Yeah," I said, smiling. "But sometimes small things show who really has control and who just pretends to." He nodded. "You ever regretted exposing her?" I mean, I thought for a long moment. No, because if I hadn't, we'd all still be living in fear. And besides, I looked out at the glowing lake. Truth has better Wi-Fi. Tom laughed so hard he nearly spilled his drink. "You're putting that on a t-shirt." Already done, I said, showing him the one I was wearing under my jacket. In bold white letters it read, "Truth has better Wi-Fi." We both laughed until the streetlights flickered on. That night, before heading inside, I checked my Wi-Fi network one last time. The screen displayed network HOA spy free zone status secure connected. I smiled, took a deep breath, and turned off the monitor. No flashing lights, no hidden connections, no fear, just peace earned the hard way. Because in the end, that's what this story was really about. Not revenge, not drama, but the simple, priceless relief of privacy. And as I closed my laptop, I couldn't help but whisper to myself, half laughing. All this because I changed my Wi-Fi password. Sometimes the smallest actions reveal the biggest truths. A single decision to stand your ground, to say no, or to protect your boundaries can expose what's been hiding in plain sight. Power doesn't corrupt overnight. It creeps in quietly disguised as responsibility until one day someone dares to question it. If there's one lesson I've learned from this entire ordeal, it's this. Never underestimate the value of your privacy or the courage it takes to defend it. And if you've ever faced a controlling HOA, a toxic neighbor, or anyone who thought they could decide how you live, share your story below. Let others know they're not alone. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because in Lakeside Grove, there's always another story waiting to